There are lots of people that have stories, and those stories go untold. In many cases, the families don't even know because the veteran doesn't share, especially if it's close to the time he served, and he served in a combat situation. You know, like I said earlier, I didn't serve with the Army. I know that there's things that they don't want, or things that they went through that they don't want to talk about. I've shared all that I've told you all with my family, so they know. But there are lots of us that this may be the only opportunity for there to be any record of their experience, of what they went through.
I was born in Buffalo, New York on November 26, 1922.
I was born in Owensboro, Kentucky in 1947.
I was born in Detroit, Michigan on May 12, 1958.
These heroes need to be recognized, number one, but number two, let those stories then be a motivational factor for younger generations, and to let them know that great things are possible for them, and that these heroes did what they did, and they weren't mythical characters from some other part of the country. They just lived right down the street from them, but at a different time.
You can have two people witness the same activity, and they'll have a different point of view. So you can't say it's all this way for any one person, because everything is always different for who's ever perceiving it.
It snowed on my birthday, the 10th of November. We were sleeping in the slight trenches, protective trenches. We were actually trying to sleep in tents in the wood. But that was where I had my 19th birthday.
Well, right after high school, I left home at 18 with $50 in my pocket, headed out to San Francisco and Haight-Ashbury.
Basic training was a big eye-opener for me because I was only 19 when I went into the military, and didn't know a lot of things in terms of skills that I would need to become a soldier. So physical training was a really big deal for me. And I remember sitting probably 4:30 in the morning, and it's still dark outside, and I was on the ground and had my first experience with red fire ants.
Oh boy, the barracks, pretty Spartan. Definitely were not luxury accommodations. I remember, and I went through officer training school in May through August in San Antonio, Texas. It was the hottest place I'd ever been. And
I had never shot a weapon before, never obviously threw a grenade.
So I walked in, I said, I'm a little confused, I'm supposed to go to missile school, but this is like the mortar building. And they said, well, you have to become a mortar person before you become a missile person. And I said, let me guess where they're shooting mortar right now. He said, yeah, straight ticket to Vietnam.
Yeah. What did your parents, was they excited or nervous or?
Oh, my poor parents.
And from a personal standpoint, I was determined to do the very best I could, because I knew that I disappointed my parents tremendously by my college performance. And so I felt like this Air Force opportunity was a second chance.
I can remember our first night, our first day of training there at Fort Bragg. We were in an auditorium, and the commanding general came in and talked to us about what qualities you really needed to succeed in Special Forces. And we were all thinking, be a cold-eyed killer and all sorts of things. He said, no, you need to have compassion.
We walked through the woods that had been fired on that morning by the Germans, and it was rather startling to see these fracturing of the trees.
Sometime in late August, I think, we had an opportunity to fly over Nagasaki and Hiroshima, where the atomic bombs had dropped at low altitude, to see the destruction of those two cities. And that's an experience that I will never forget because of the total destruction that the atomic bomb devastated on those cities.
There's no question about it. You are afraid. You are afraid. It's high threat. People were getting shot down every day. People taken prisoner or being killed from being shot down. And so if anybody says to you that you're flying a real combat mission without any fear, they're not telling the truth. Everybody is afraid. The difference is some people can manage the fear and still perform, and sadly, some people can't.
Guys would get shot down over the Ho Chi Minh Trail out in Laos someplace, and I, as a paid nail pilot, we had special equipment on board our airplane that allowed us to find and go to people. And as a SAR commander, search and rescue commander, I would launch with Sandys, A1s, as well as with HH-53 helicopters that were going to be used to try to extract them, pick them up. And I would lead this force of A1s and HH-53s to the guy that's on the ground because I could find him. I could go back to him, and I'd talk to him on the radio and tell him this is what's going to happen. And then I would get out of the way, and then the Sandys would do their thing about sanitizing the area so that the HH-53s could come in and hover and then pick the guy up. Now you lead the massive airplanes back to NKP, and now you go to the bar, and there's the guy that you picked up, and he's buying everybody that he can find a drink. And so those are some of my most fulfilling missions that I flew.
So there were 6 flying slots in the unit, which is unusual because a very small percentage of people in the Air Force ever get to fly in any capacity. But I got to fly on a regular basis with the AWACS crews.
The Air Force recruiter said, well, you know, what's your interest in when you're going into the Air Force? And it just came out that, well, this is the Air Force and they fly, so I'd like to fly.
You go from being a boy in small town Bungary and now you're flying jets in the air. That blow your mind?
That totally puts your ego out of reach.
Yeah.
When you're up there flying that, your ego has gone way up here.
So I remember I knew I was going to be deployed over to Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. We thought it was just for 6 weeks. It was only supposed to be for 6 weeks, a 6-week rotation. But once I got over there, the military kept extending the time. And first they told us we'd be home I went over in October of 1990, and they told us we'd be home for Thanksgiving, don't worry. And then they extended it. Then they said, you'll be home for Christmas, don't worry. And then all bets were up.
A really good friend of mine who was on his second tour that was sort of like my mentor, Sergeant Montgomery. The last thing he said to me was that whether I decide to stay in the military or not, he could tell that get an education. And that shortly after that he was killed, and he was somebody I never thought would be killed because of his experiences and all that, and had it was second tour and things like that. When I did get back, I got my bachelor's degree, got my master's degree, and I got my PhD.
Yeah.
All because of Sergeant Montgomery. And he was right. My life always got better with every degree.
Well, I didn't consider it really a sacrifice. It was a duty. I did it, and I'm thankful that I came through it.
Serving your country is a beautiful thing. In wartime or not wartime, it's something that matters. It's important.
When you were growing up as a girl in Detroit, did you ever cross your mind that you'd be lieutenant governor?
No, absolutely not.
I think the important thing to say is that I'm thankful that I have been left to discuss this kind of thing. I'm thankful to have lived this long and appreciate the fact that I've lived this long, and hope that future generations will look back and be grateful for what it was that we did to help bring this country into a victorious situation in World War II and subsequent veterans in subsequent conflicts.